That might sound like a very counterintuitive statement that successful people can be envious of those who are less successful than them. So, how are we defining success in this case? I can provide some examples. It plays on that saying, we always want what we don't have, right? But oftentimes, those we perceive as having it better suffer just as much, if not more, than us, or in different ways. Now, envy may not always be the right word to describe some of these situations, but I've known people who are comparatively more successful in the realms of their finances, romantic life, albeit very superficial. To me, people who are wealthier, more financially successful, more a peer group, more popularity, more relationship prospects have told me, well, if I just looked like you, I would have even more, more girlfriends and more opportunities. Because I'm 6'5" and I've got light eyes and all these different things people have pointed out that they think automatically makes you like just loved by all women. Obviously, attraction plays physical appearance plays a role, but personality matters to certain people. Money money certainly speaks volumes, irrespective of what you look like. Okay. Now, me personally, some of these same people have told me that the girls I liked were ugly. So they made their own value judgments. But they do say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? To some degree, I think people on average like symmetry, for instance, like a decent bone structure, so on and so forth. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We live in a day and age. Not only does modern liberalism imply or espouse this, but also aspects of religion that, like, the flesh is something to be ashamed of. And that's kind of vague. I mean, yeah, some people should maybe be more ascetic or celibates across the board. But just the notion of beauty itself is not something we should champion by any stretch of the imagination. You see a lot of mediocrity now pushed out, like body positivity and so on and so forth. But like I said, my attraction or preferences don't necessarily fit the conventional beauty standards either. Even though it's traits that I have that I see in many others, they still differ in some sense. I won't really expound on that, but that's what I mean by aspects of liberalism or Christianity, aspects of. I'm not necessarily saying everyone who sort of adheres to these worldviews espouses that. They may espouse it, but not truly embody what they believe. And you find that with the lustful, highly devout person, who on the one hand is chaste, on the other hand is a freak by night. And you also find that with the blue-haired types who, like activists on the streets, freaks in the sheets, as they say. But I've seen this. I'm not saying this to self-aggrandize myself in any sense, but people who've had a lot of popularity and fame, whereas I very seldom have had consistent friendships throughout my life, have said I'm jealous that you've had better economic opportunities than me growing up. Granted, I come from a family of, well, one part of my family were practically poor, not necessarily poor, impoverished immigrants, but can approximate some form of poverty when they came to the United States. But the economic situation was different back then. Obviously, hard work was necessary. It's like people worked in factories laboriously. A lot of them met it their demise. But they've said, well, oh, you've had it better, this and that, and you're smart and you're attractive and this and that. And it's even some girls have said this. I got a comment recently on one of my videos just talking about having a sense of meaning and purpose, and they said, I'm not going to listen to this chud, which is like an acronym. They always call me whenever I'm making a video. This is why I hate the phone sometimes so much, because even when you have a phone, like your privacy is infringed on in many cases. But what was I saying? See, that sidetracks me. I think I'm free sometimes, but I'm not really free. I just have a sense of freedom. Basically, you can have like practically everything in the world and still be unsatisfied. If you actually have some physical abnormalities and you're alone, it's easier to assume everyone has it better than you. But how many relationships are actually genuine? How many relationships are about comfort and just making people sort of feel good and appease them with the drugs, the alcoholism, the fame? Not all grifters. Not all glitters is gold. I can't see because the sun is casted upon my phone right now. As you can see, I got straight hair right now. But yeah, some people assume that everyone else has it better than them, and they'll feel sort of isolated from the world. But there's different reasons for being isolated. Sometimes some people deserve isolation. It can humble them. It can help them see the limits of their selves and others. And that might be because they are disreputable in some sense, or generally unlikable for various reasons. They could genuinely be like an unlikable person, but they could also be very different. They could also be very misunderstood. It's easy for a lot of people to confuse a narcissistic person from like a genuinely highly sensitive person who's very intuitive and very perceptive, because both often tend to complain. But the latter can become corrupted. I mean, we are humans, obviously. High sensitivity is more like an increased capacity to feel. But when you feel emotions deeply, the various emotions tend to temper each other. So if you're feeling anger, you're typically going to feel a sense of shame or a sense of sadness. Some people predominantly feel anger and aggression, and they don't channel it into something productive. And you shouldn't always have anger followed by shame and followed by sadness. It really depends on the context. But I think some people really, they might have it all on paper, in theory, but not in practice, and still yearn for more. Like that guy told me. And this is not necessarily envy. It could have just been a point, like, oh, I would have things even better. But it's like, I get a slew of relationships with women, many of which are for bodily pleasures. But if I had only looked like you, 6'5", this defined bone structure, then I would have even more. It's like, wait a second, I fit that description. I'm 6'5", I got a nice bone structure, I got light eyes. They're kind of green, kind of blue, kind of hazel. Can't really pinpoint what color they are. And I've never had a genuine relationship with a woman. Maybe once, very short-lived. And that was kind of my fault, but we were both crazy when we were 18. Smart, but crazy. But no, I mean, so what are you telling me? Like, in these girls writing comments saying I'm a chud or I look like an F-boy just because I have a jawline? They didn't even listen to the video. I never mentioned anything that would imply that. Like, maybe I seem a bit grandiose sometimes because I have a sense of self. But people oftentimes make assumptions based off how you look. And these are some of the same liberals who tell you don't judge a book by its cover and judge a person by the content of their character. They'll make assumptions about who you are. And a lot of envy. They'll think you have something that they don't. You're a man. You have a physical prowess. You have stature. You have money. Or you have smarts or whatever. Envy can really be about anything. So it's crazy because a lot of these people, had they received what they secretly desire in others, would disregard any sense of conscience. And I think about this sometimes. The homeless man who begs for money, I don't have pity for him. I could have sympathy for him given the situation, because it's easy to lose all your money in America. It's easy if you don't have a family and you don't have money. It's easy to lose everything. I knew this one gentleman I worked with at a movie theater once. He had practically nobody in his life. Father's passed away, alcoholic. Mother out of the picture, estranged, no siblings, alone, poor, working paycheck to paycheck, no girlfriend, health problems. I felt a lot of sympathy for him. I wanted to be friends with him, but he humbly declined the offer. I tried to pursue a friendship with him, and he didn't respond. He didn't seem too excited about it. Maybe it's because at a certain point people grow cynical and they just don't trust other people. But a lot of people have not trusted me. But a lot of people have told me that I'm a very unique individual. So it really depends on the person saying it. But yeah, I felt a lot of sympathy for this man, not pity. I didn't prop myself above him, but sympathy, compassion. Not in the sense that everything's right just the way you are. Your mindset contributes to your situation in life in many instances. But in American society, a lot of people feel estranged from others because it's kind of taboo to befriend strangers. And a lot of people feel isolated and afraid and alone, and it's saddening because at least in other cultures you might get taken advantage of, but you won't have that same sense of lonesomeness, even if you are misunderstood in those cultures. Maybe you're more likely to find that sense of companionship. I don't really know, but basically he didn't express any sense of envy. He expressed a lot of sympathy towards me and my situation too, because I've been dealt not really great hand in life. If it weren't for others right now, I would be homeless. But I pursue opportunities when they arise, and with all my heart and spirit. But yeah, like I said, some of these people would not care. Some homeless people, they'll beg for money. But next time I see that, I kind of feel like saying, okay, I'll give you $5. I bought someone a cup of coffee. She was really nice and sincere. And we spoke about how I said the family should be the centerpiece of society, so as to prevent this type of suffering. Suffering you could learn from, but there's an unnecessary suffering to where you suffer in vain, essentially. And I'm just some homeless people, I feel like if I gave them $5 or got them a cup of coffee or a sandwich, I kind of want to ask them, well, would you do the same if I were in your situation? And people might say, well, that's kind of vain, that's kind of arrogant, that's not nice. But we live in a culture that celebrates, it champions the value of niceness, of politeness, of equality, so on and so forth. But do you actually see this? Is that actually making anyone stronger as individuals, as thinkers? as feelers, even. Because clearly a lot of people differ in that regard. But like I said, there's nothing wrong with having, if you are profound in some sense, it's okay to have esteem for oneself. I always say, let your esteem be tempered by doubt, lest your profundity deludes you. If you are creating a magnificent piece of art, you ought to feel like the greatest artist of all time in that moment. And I don't see anything disreputable about that. Because on the one hand, we champion niceness, we champion equality and so on and so forth, and self-love. But when a lot of people actually express some semblance of real self-love, it's seen as selfishness, it's seen as narcissism. But actual like selfishness in the conventional sense of the word, where you're self-indulgent and disregard the feelings of others entirely, is that really self-love, or are you just kind of acting like everyone else? Is that a true expression of the unfiltered, wholesome, soulful self? They say the self is evil. Well, maybe the self is what actually propels society. The self is what actually makes a difference. I'm not saying everything has to become different, or that progress is always a good thing. But without the self, we're all the same. If we're all the same, we're mediocre. Some people should be the same, some people shouldn't. That's the way I see it. But apparently nuance is not really popular amongst the rabble.